Welcome, folks, to another episode of The Bible Show. My name is Sam. Joining me is Will, and we are continuing in the book of Genesis, and today we get to the part where Jacob finally parts ways from Laban, and he is going to go back home. So from the very beginning, Jacob gets this. There's a notion to him that he is always a schemer. Even in the womb, he's jostling with his brother. When his brother's born, he's grabbing the heel. So his name literally means heel grabber, and so he comes out. His mother received a prophecy that he is going to be the chosen of the two sons. It says the older will serve the younger. And so mom helps him to scheme to get the blessing, even through deceit. We learned about that. Then everything blows up because Jacob basically steals the blessing from Esau. And then Esau wants to kill him, and he runs. And so on his way to Haran, he goes to sleep, and he has this dream. And you remember what the dream is?
The Jacob's ladder, right?
Yeah, it's Jacob's ladder, and God wants to show him, I'm involved in the affairs of man. And then when he wakes up, he's like, this place is anointed. He anoints a rock and says, this is the house of God. He calls it Bethel, and we're going to see that again today. And he says, surely God is in this place. And God comes to him and says, this is what you're in store for. You're going to go to this land, but I'm going to bring you back here. You're going to come back to this very spot, and I'm going to be with you. And he gives all the blessings to him. He's, all the nations of the earth are going to be blessed through you. You're going to have descendants. Those who bless you, I'm going to bless. And sure enough, that's what happens. He goes to Paddan Aram. He meets Rachel, falls in love with her, and he says, I'll work 7 years to buy her. But then Laban, his father-in-law, does what?
Deceives him.
So Jacob gets a taste of his own medicine, and Laban puts Leah out for him to marry, and then he has to work another 7 years for Rachel. So what do we learn about Laban? How would you describe this guy from what we know?
I mean, he's definitely a deceiver. He's definitely in it for himself. He fakes concern about people, I would say. He's always concerned about his daughters, but really it's a concern about him. And that whole thing about hey, let me pay you. It's just to control and have the power of it all.
That's right. And he's greedy.
Yeah.
We know that about him too. So yeah, that's pretty much right on. So Jacob finishes his 14 years. And at that point, he's got his wives. He's got some of the children. They've had a cold war of who can have the most children. And at that point, Jacob could be like, all right, I'm done. I fulfilled my obligation. I'm out. And then what happens is Laban is like, oh, but you have nothing. You're penniless. And Jacob's like, should I leave here and with no way to take care of my family? I should build up a little nest egg. And so Laban's like, you don't even understand. I've become so wealthy because you're here.
Yeah.
Name your wages. I'll pay you whatever. Just stay because you're such a blessing to me. And Laban the whole time is thinking, I just want you here, but I'm going to exploit you.
Yeah.
I'm going to scheme it out of you. I'm going to keep everything you make. And so Jacob offers up this ridiculous thing. He says, I'll take only the new animals that are born, that are streaked and spotted, the imperfect ones. Those are the only ones I want. And Laban's like, all right, really? And so what Laban does is he takes all the white, pure, unblemished ones, sends them 3 days ahead, and then it's like, all right, good luck. Or he takes the blemished ones and sends them ahead. And so Jacob's left with only the white ones, the unblemished ones. And it's like, well, you're not going to produce striped and speckled and spotted ones if the only ones you have are white, unless they all have recessive genes. And God's given Jacob a vision and says, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so he has all these baby lambs and sheep and goats that are blemished. And his wealth grows fantastically. And Laban is infuriated by it. This is not good for him. And so when we start the beginning of chapter 31,
everybody's mad.
Everybody's mad. Now Laban's flock is getting weaker. Jacob's flock is growing. And we learned in the last one, there's something cool about God's chosen shepherd drawing to himself what? All the blemished ones. Thank God. That's what our good shepherd does. He brings all the blemished ones to himself. And one of the things I forgot to mention in the last episode that one of them I think is very intentional. The other one is probably a reach, but I'm going to say it anyway. And that's this. Laban's name literally means white. Okay. Rachel's name, which is Jacob's love, right, that he has to work all those extra years to get, her name literally means ewe lamb, which means like a baby female lamb, right? And so now think about this. From the white, what animals does Jacob have left over? Like, what Laban left him with what kind of animals?
The white.
Only the white ones. And from the white ones, he gets his lambs, right? Mm-hmm. And so Laban's name means white. His daughter Rachel's name means ewe lamb. And what's going on in the broader story is Jacob is winning the lamb for himself from the white ones. And so it's almost prophetic how this plays out and what's going on. But even beyond that, I thought this was interesting. This is the stretch which you're allowed to say, yeah, that's terrible. You should never have said that. But when Jacob is having them reproduce, what does he put in front of them?
Striped things.
He puts a branch. He puts a branch in the water trough to where they're coming into his flock as the shepherd. And you know who is referred to as the branch multiple times throughout the Old Testament? Jesus.
Yeah.
So you go to Isaiah 11:1, there shall come forth from the shoot of the stump of Jesse a branch, and from his roots shall bear fruit. Or Jeremiah 23:5, I will raise up for David a righteous branch. Jeremiah 33:15, I will cause a righteous branch to spring up for David. This is talking about Jesus. Zechariah 6:12, the Lord of hosts says, behold, a man whose name is the branch, for he shall branch out from his place and he shall build the temple of the Lord, talking about the Messiah. So the Messiah is referred to as a branch, and I just find it like, is that meant to be a connection to where when these things are reproducing, they're staring at the branch and that's what brings them into the flock of Jacob? Maybe not.
Maybe.
But it is interesting. You know, there's so many correlations in the way that God puts these stories together. Maybe it is prophetic. I don't know. But anyway, setting that aside, there's our long recap. Now we jump into Genesis chapter 31, starting in verse 1. It says, now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban, so he does have sons.
Okay.
There you go. But they're off with him. The sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what was our father's, he has gained all this wealth.
They're just like their dad.
Oh, man.
Because they're thinking, I don't care that they took my dad's stuff. I care they took my inheritance.
That's exactly right.
They're like, oh, I'm going to be poor now because of this guy.
Yeah. So, yes. And remember, why were they rich in the first place?
Because of him. Yeah, they're totally.
Jacob comes, their wealth balloons because, one, he's a good shepherd, and two, God is showing favor on them. But now, because God shows favor on Jacob and Laban has turned against him, now they're losing all their wealth, and that's all they've cared about this whole time.
Yeah.
Like this whole pretending, oh, your family, let us pay you, you stay here.
Jacob's a cash cow to them.
That's exactly it. That's the limit to what he's worth to them. And it says, and Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him with favor as before. And the Hebrew there, I kind of like the way that it says it, but that expression did not regard him with favor means like won't look at him.
Oh, wow.
Won't turn his face to him. You know how like in the blessing that comes, may his face shine upon you? Like the idea of a blessing in Hebrew and in the Bible is my face is toward you. Like I'm concerned for you. I'm looking at you. I'm making eye contact with you. You mean something to me. I'm affectionate toward you. But if, you know, you ever hear like when Jesus goes to the cross, what's one of the common expressions? And it's in our songs and stuff. God turns his face away, right? And it means that there's no longer that warm affection. God has turned his back on Jesus in that moment of suffering and wrath. Well, here, Laban, the one who's been feigning all this concern, now won't even look at him. So Jacob is like, at least before he at least came and said, oh, your family, and, my blessing is coming from you. Now he despises him, and Jacob absolutely knows it. So at this point, he's been working for Laban for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, and you got to think, we talked about this a little bit in our last episode, but even in spite of the fact that Laban has been manipulating and exploiting and changing the terms of their deal and making up stuff as he goes along and trying to exploit Jacob, just like Jacob does to people, all of this is going on. And what is Jacob's response? He's still working hard.
Yeah.
He's blessing Laban. He's doing all these things. And now, just because God is sovereignly choosing to bless Jacob, Jacob can't control what lamb births a speckled and spotted, and yet in this, he has not done wrong to Laban. He's abided by the terms, which for Jacob is pretty phenomenal. But now, at the end of this, he's done.
Yeah.
He is so done.
And he's like 50 or 60 by now, right?
He's old. I think older than that.
Okay.
Like it's a weird math, but if you wanted to do it, you have to go to Joseph and work your way backward, because the age given when Joseph is coming near the end of his life, it says how old Jacob is, and you have to like back up. Okay, Joseph was in Egypt for this long, and it's older than
We
that.
just know Jacob started out on this path for a wife later than we would assume.
100%. Yeah. So I want to say it's like I think he goes there when he's in his 70s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like he's old. And by this point, so 20 years later, he'd be in his 90s,
Yes,
if I'm remembering the
And
math
he's been
right.
away from everyone for a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, so this is practically his home at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, he's 20 years.
Yeah.
I haven't been where I'm at for 20 years yet. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I'm pretty close. Okay. I've been right at 20 years. Gosh, that time flies. Anyway, all right, so God is blessing Laban due to Jacob's presence. Now that God has taken the blessing away, remember the promise, those who bless you, I will bless. Those who curse you, I will curse. He turns his face away from you. Guess what happens to him? He just withers.
The faucet runs out.
That's right. So then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. I love that he always throws that in. Like, I will be with you. I will be with you.
Yeah, the
It's
huge
always
things. Mm-hmm. Like when it seems impossible, because this probably seems impossible to Jacob at this point.
Yeah, he's stuck.
Yeah.
Why would you feel stuck? Because if you stay with Laban, what's your reality?
I mean, just terrible.
I got a bunch of people who want me dead because I'm taking all their stuff. Like, you got to know that they're like, all right, he's taking all of our wealth. This belongs to us, and he is the one stealing our future. He's got to feel like, my future here's not too great, but if I go back home, what's waiting for me?
Oh, yeah. Angry Esau. I forgot
Angry
about him
Esau,
for a second.
who the last thing you know about him is,
I want to kill you.
I want to kill you. The reason that he's here so long, I think, is because Esau wants to kill him.
He's trying to wait out Esau's vengeance.
So now it's like, okay, I'm stuck between two really unpleasant options. I stay here, not so secure.
Who's going to kill me first?
That's right. Everybody wants to kill me, probably because of the way I've been living and everything else too, in part. But now he's stuck in a really, really hard spot. And God is coming to him and assuring him, saying, go back to the land I told you to go back to when I appeared to you at the ladder, but I'm going to be with you. You can trust me. I'm going to take care of you just the way I've taken care of you all along. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was. And we hear that, and I don't think we rightly visualize it. So when shepherds, like a clan back in that day, they'd have a home base where their little village was, where the servants were, where their wives and concubines and everybody else is. But then from that, they go miles. Yeah. You remember, like it says that they were 3 days' journey in front of Jacob, like in a couple chapters ago. So like when it says that he's calling Rachel and Leah out into the field, it's not like, hey, come out of the tent and walk 100 yards.
He's in the backyard, yeah.
This is like, come meet me where I'm in my cycle of leading the flock, because this is a semi-nomadic life, right? And so they go all the way out there to have this private meeting. And one of the other things that's going to fill in for you is it's not like every night they have dinner together.
Yeah, it's not like Laban's just not looking at him every second of the day.
He is gone from home. He is a traveling salesman. He is not with his wives every night. When they're in their fertility cycles, he's got a plan when to make it by the tents so that he can, try to get them pregnant. And then he's gone again, off in the fields, miles away with the flocks again. And so as you're going through this chapter, you're going to be like, man, they need to talk more. Like, how do they not know this? And the reason for that is they're semi-nomadic. Jacob is not at the dinner table every night. And so before he unveils his plan to leave, Jacob is calling them in, and he's going to let them in on the secret. Like, he has never told them in all these years. So we're at the end of 6 years of God giving him all these flocks, right? Never mentioned to his wives the dream that he had from God. Never mentioned to his wives what's going on. So you're like, man, okay, they're not that, they don't seem that close here, because this is going to be news to them. You have lots of resentment and insecurity between the wives. How do you know that?
I mean, they've been fighting this whole time.
Cold War. Like, who's going to have more children? Maybe my husband will love me. Like, so you got to think Leah's been chasing after his affection. There's an insecurity there. This is a broken home. And now Jacob is coming, and he wants to make his case. And hear this, because he calls Rachel and Leah and says, I want you to come with me. So this is probably the first time, at least in the scriptures, where you could make a case that he's been like, hey, Leah, come with me. Like, why not just Rachel? Hey, we can leave her.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like her. I don't want her. But he wants both of them to come, which is kind of the beginning of a redemptive arc in this story. And so Jacob said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before. So one of the things that he's going to do here is he doesn't say Laban. He doesn't say, our
your father.
relative. It's your father. He's very clearly like, it's not my guy. Not my guy.
Which we all do when we're mad.
Yep. Yeah, it's like parents. Your child.
Your
son.
daughter.
Yeah. He does not regard me with favor as he did before. He's turned his face away from me, but the God of my father has been with me. Now Jacob is saying, like, who's got a better family? Like, let's look at your dad and the way that he's treating me and us. And by the way, look at what has happened to his flock and his enterprise. And oh, by the way, let's compare that with the God of my father, because he's been with me and I've been blessed all along this way. Like, and so he's making a case to his wives, which is kind of weird for us to read, to like, I'm about to leave. Please come with me.
Yeah, this is a big move. So it is smart to be like, hey, let's lay some groundwork for the decision here.
Yep. So he's going into sales mode. And it feels weird because he's worked the 14 years. He's fulfilled all the stuff. They're his wives. And yet you'll see in this chapter, Laban does not regard them as Jacob's wives, as in like, you lead the household. They belong to him. And Jacob is trying to convince them, you need to leave Laban and come with me. So anyway, the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. So here's Jacob. He's like, I haven't cut corners. Like, I've been faithful. I've put in the hard work. I've given him everything that he's asked and more. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times, which the Bible doesn't describe like what that looks like, but he's changed wages 10 times. So what is that? Does that include Leah? Maybe. Does that include like, does he change the spotted and speckled and weak and where he goes? And like, we don't know what that looks like, but this guy's constantly shifting the arrangement. And Jacob's like, are you kidding? But God did not permit him to harm me. And that's going to be a big theme of this chapter. God steps in the way of Laban and says, nope, you're not going to harm him.
Yeah, the sovereignty of it all.
My blessing, my anointing is on this guy. You can do nothing about it.
Which is why Jacob's ladder was such a big deal for Jacob himself for perspective.
He's learning.
That he got like, okay, now since I've seen that, I can now look at my earthly perspective and see God moving.
Yeah, and he believes it. He absolutely believes it now. If he said the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he said the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore striped. So nothing Laban could do would disrupt the fact that God just pours out blessing upon blessing upon blessing on him. And thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. So here it is. It's like, okay, the heavens are smiling on me. What team do you want to be on?
Yeah.
Like, the heavens are clearly not smiling on your father and his gods. All right, so as he's talking with them, he's going to recount two dreams. In the first dream, it's like, God told me that this was going to be the way that it was. You know, I'm going to have the imperfect lambs, and God sovereignly told me that before I entered into any agreement. But then the second dream is, get out of here. God comes and says, get out of here. So verse 10, in the breeding season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes, and I saw in a dream. This guy gets pretty cool dreams. I saw in a dream that the goats that mated with the flock were striped, spotted, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. And he said, lift up your eyes and see, all the goats that mate with the flock are striped, spotted, and mottled. In other words, God's saying, I don't want you to pick the unblemished ones.
Yeah.
You take the blemished ones. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I'm the God of Bethel. Remember me? The one where the ladder was, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me? You said that you would follow me if I fulfilled all the conditions. You remember that? Now arise and go out of this land and return to the land of your kindred. And so Jacob is like super pumped about this. Like, God's fulfilled all this. I'm going to tell you like what the promises he gave to me back in Genesis 27. Cursed be anyone who curses you. Blessed be anyone who blesses you. Like, it's happening. He's following through. He's blessed me with wealth. He's given me wives. He's given me children. He's provided for me all along the way. I want you to be a part of that story. Will you leave your father is basically what's coming.
Yeah, it's clear for Jacob what God's doing because he's been getting the dreams and they've been fulfilled time and time again. So he's like, okay, if you fulfilled the animal part, then I get this part.
Yeah. And I think that's, you're seeing Jacob's faith, even though he's still a schemer at this point,
Yeah.
will be a schemer for a while yet. You're seeing his faith start to come alive. Like, oh, you can trust this God a little bit. Like, wow. You know?
Well, he's having interactions with God again, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because we've seen all throughout Genesis when there are praying or interactions with God, things are going smoother. And then all of a sudden you see those periods where like the patriarchs and their spouses decide like, we're going to do this on our own and things are a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, like that's one of the things, like even when Rachel's praying or going to Jacob saying, you know, I'm struggling with this. He's like, what, am I in the place of God? But he doesn't pray. Like he doesn't do like Isaac and Rebecca
Doesn't
did.
intercede, yeah.
And now you're seeing, oh yeah, maybe this God is
Functioning relationship
functioning.
again.
He's blessing me. Everything's still about me.
Yeah.
But he's blessing me, you know? And so in verse 14, it says, then Rachel and Leah, here's the moment of truth. Like, are you going to stay with your dad or are you going to come with me? Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and he has indeed devoured our money. All the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do.
All right, they're in.
Dang. So this is the first time Jacob's heard that. It's the first time we've heard that. Like before this, you assume that Rachel and Leah, even though they're in the middle of a dysfunctional home and Laban is not the greatest dad and he's got favorites and he brings all this harm on this household, this is the first time where they're like, he exploits us too.
Yeah.
You know, when someone got married in the ancient world, there were two transactions. One was the bride price. So that's like if you went to Laban and you said, I would like to marry your daughter, you give a bride price, which is, hey, father-in-law perspective, here's a payment. So what was Jacob? That's him saying, I'll work 7 years to get Rachel, right? But then from that, the father then takes at least a portion of his wealth or that gift and gives her a dowry, which is, here's a little bit of independence and a safety net for you in case your husband leaves you, in case you need this or he dies or whatever. And so every bride in the ancient world, especially one who came from a family of means, got a dowry. Well, what's happened to Leah and Rachel's dowry?
Laban spent it.
Yeah, he's not only exploiting Jacob, he took their dowry and spent it as well. Like they're left with nothing. And they're like, we don't have our dowry. We don't have anything. That's why probably when Leah's naming one of the sons, remember she says, God has given me a good endowment.
Yeah.
The God of your father, Jacob, gave me a good endowment. He gave me a dowry. My father did not.
Nothing, yeah.
So there's been this tension growing because Laban is not the greatest father going on here. And so now Jacob hears that they're on board. So Jacob arose and set his sons and wives on camels, and he drove away all his livestock, all his property that he had gained. Remember, because how far apart are all their flocks?
At least 3 days.
3 days. So there's no way they see this. So he takes all the flocks and he's like, get going, move, all his property that he gained. The livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Paddan Aram, which, by the way, that's like the northern Syria, Paddan Aram. It's where we get Aramaic, right? So Jesus speaks Aramaic. When you hear Aram, that's where that comes from. In fact, later on, you're going to see Laban name something, and it's an Aramaic expression, which would be a language that Jesus uses as well. So all the stuff that we acquired in Paddan Aram, go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. Now, this is a problem.
Yeah.
So he's doing all this in secret. Like, okay, they're not looking. We've got a couple of days head start for sure. Go, get all of our stuff, all of our wealth, get out of here, because you know Laban and his sons, they're going to be coming for it. And if he thinks that I'm taking his family and his daughters and everything else and we're bailing without telling him, he is going to be absolutely furious and he might murder us or enslave us. We need to get out of here in secret. And so when you sheared sheep, it was a days-long process. If you had big flocks, like you're taking up, it takes a long time. And so he's overseeing that process. It's like he's going to be busy for a long time where he's at. Go. But here's the question. Why does Rachel steal the household gods? There's 3 or 4 reasons that you can read about in commentaries.
I mean, she believes in those gods. She's a trusted God.
So she's idolatrous. It's one option.
Get back at her dad.
To get back at her dad, she's vindictive.
Like, you can't worship these gods. I'm going to take away everything you have.
Yeah, you took away my stuff. I'm going to take away what's most precious to you. And it could be maybe all these.
Those are my 2.
All right, so yeah, she's vindictive. Another one that I read, and I thought this is interesting. You remember when Laban is talking about, like he comes to Jacob and he's like, after the 14 years of working for the 2 brides, he comes and says, no, keep working for me, for I have learned by divination that I'm blessed because of you. Well, so Laban very much believes in divination, and his divination was accurate, actually. Like, he was blessed because of Jacob, which probably should have been obvious, but he practices that. And so when she takes these, if he practices divination, what's he going to be asking? Where did they go? How do I find them? How can I? So
he's going to need those guys to track them.
Maybe she fears, like, maybe there is power, like, even if it's a demonic power in these things, I need to take them away so he can't use them against us. That's an interesting thing. But it's interesting to me, like, she's the one who prays, right? She's the one who refers to Yahweh. Just right before this, what does she say? Do whatever God has told you, right? She's pledging her allegiance to the God of Jacob. Even when Joseph was born, what does she says the birth of Joseph was attributed to Yahweh. And so may Yahweh add to me, right? Like, so you get the sense that Rachel at least believes in Yahweh. Maybe she's got other gods on the shelf that she wants to have as well and be a polytheist, but she seems faithful. This is the one that I think makes the most sense that we didn't understand until this last century when we had an archaeological discovery. So there's something called the Nuzi tablets.
Okay.
The Nuzi tablets were found right around this area, I think in modern-day Syria, I believe. But they're written 15th century BC, so within a few centuries of when Jacob and Rachel are living, and it contains records of all these legal transactions, and one of the tablets records a man's last will and testament, right? Okay. So it's on these stone tablets. This guy writes out his last will and testament. I'm just going to read it, so bear with me. Weird names. Zike adopted Wulu as his son. As long as Zike lives, Wulu shall support and care for him. Upon Zike's death, Wulu shall become his heir. He shall take over the household gods and inherit his estate. And so the way that it's written,
it's kind of like their blessing.
It makes it sound as if whoever takes possession of the household gods,
that's the one,
gets the estate. They're in the lead chair to receive everything else. So this is the culture of that region. So what has Rachel and Leah just been complaining about?
He's given us nothing.
He's given us nothing. We have no share. We have no inheritance. He's taken away our dowry. And now on the way out, she goes and says, I'm taking the household gods because all this belongs to me. So is it vindictive? Probably. Is there some idolatry in there? Maybe. I think this inheritance thing is spot on, and I think she probably does fear that he uses these things to get retribution or to find them. So I think that those are more likely the motives than that she's just a rank idolater who needs these gods because she loves them so much.
And it feels like Rachel and Leah both all the time are so insecure that they're just looking for security anywhere, even if it's in the wrong places. They're like, hey, I'm going to Jacob's family's land. I don't know how this is going to work out still.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's very, very possible. And you know that they do that. I mean, they'll hedge their bets any way they can, whether it's mandrakes and, all these other things. Like, you see them do some pretty kooky stuff. So anyway, Jacob tricked Laban, the Aramean, by not telling him that he intended to flee. He fled with all that he had and arose and crossed the Euphrates and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. So massive head start. And here the problem is, he's got all the stuff.
Yeah.
Right? He's got huge flocks. He's got little kids.
They're not moving quickly.
They're not going quickly, right? Laban and his sons figure out they're leaving. What are they hindered by?
Nothing.
They're going to be scooting. They're going to be racing. And so they need a massive head start. So verse 22, when it was told Laban on the third day, so they get a third day head start, When it was told him that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsmen with him and pursued him for 7 days and followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. They get right on the border of the promised land. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night. I love this. And said to him, hey, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I kind of love that. Like God shows up. Jacob, tried to scheme it all out on his own. Like, I'm going to get this head start. And while he's shearing the sheep, I got this great plan, blah, 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 blah. And it's still like his scheme doesn't save him. Laban's caught him. He's got him. Like, it's over for him. But God shows up and says, you touch a hair on his head, I'm going to blow you to smithereens, dude.
Yeah, it's interesting that he uses this, like, just don't say anything, because Laban's only power is kind of manipulation through speech.
That's it. It's all deals. Like, don't even try to get into a contract with him.
Like, mute Laban's useless.
Right? That's a good point. That's really good. He's a schemer, so God's going to shut his mouth. Who else does he do this to, by the way? Can you think of somebody that God shows up to and says, do not harm this man in a dream?
Oh, it goes to King David about Saul.
Okay. Yeah, well, God comes and says, don't touch the anointed. I don't remember if it's a dream, but that. Who else?
I don't know.
Think Jesus. Right at his crucifixion, Pilate's wife.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? She comes to Pilate and says, I've suffered terribly in a dream because of this man. Don't harm him. Mm-hmm. And another one was Abimelech earlier. Remember Abimelech, the king of Gerar, when Sarah's being kept captive? What happens? God goes to him and says, if you keep her, I'm going to wipe out you and this village. Mm-hmm. And it's like God shows up for his people in this case, especially when it's protecting the lineage that's going to bring forth the salvation of the world. He's not playing.
Yeah.
Like, these are unique. I don't know that he does the same thing for Sam and Will, at least not like this. Yet. Yeah. But to protect the line of the Messiah, it's like he gets up in people's business. So verse 25, it says, and Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tents in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen pitched tents in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done?
He broke the only rule already?
What's that?
To not speak.
Oh, yeah. He does this anyway. It's like this guy is so self-unaware. He really is kind of buffoonish character.
It's crazy for God to come to you in a dream. You're like,
Yeah.
Better not.
Right? I think what that means, like what you were saying, is don't try to enter into any more arrangements, good or bad. Yeah. Like, you let him go. You are not allowed to manipulate him anymore. So I don't know that it's like you can't talk to him. Maybe, because he lives here anyway. God doesn't like scorch him dead. And so they've got their different camps, and so now Laban's come and said, what have you done? That's a expression, by the way, that you find in Jacob's life quite a bit. Like, what have you done? Like, this time it's coming from Laban to him, but it's been what I think Isaac says it to him, and other people that have been surprised. That you have tricked me and driven away my daughters like captives of the sword. So this is how Laban thinks of his daughters. There's no way they would have gone with you.
That's wild.
They are so loyal to me. The only way that I could think that they would have betrayed me and left with you is you've kidnapped them with swords and forced them to leave my home.
That's crazy.
That's how self-deluded Laban is.
This guy has zero self-awareness.
And they can't stand him. He can't believe that they would leave voluntarily. And they're like, he's cheated us our whole lives. Like, he says, why did you flee secretly and trick me and did not tell me? And then listen to this, because this is rich. That I might have sent you away with mirth and songs, with tambourine and lyre. Like, I would have thrown a great party for you and celebrated you, Jacob, even though I've turned my face away from you for the last 6 years. Like, but I would have been really happy, and I would have been celebrating. And the daughters that I've cheated, out of their dowries and everything else, it would have been so wonderful how I treated them if you'd have just given me the chance. Why did you not permit me to kiss my sons, meaning grandsons, and daughters, farewell? You have done foolishly. So this guy's out of his mind.
Yeah, this guy stinks.
Serious. This guy stinks. So he's either self-deceived or he's scheming to present himself as some kind of father to negotiate something. Like, what's he getting at? And you think back, like, when's the last time that he threw a party for Jacob. Like, he's saying, oh, I'm going to mirth and songs and tambourine and lyre. We're going to have a great feast and fest.
It was a wedding when he cheated him.
Yeah. So when he got him drunk and took advantage of him, and Jacob's like, no, thanks. Like, I remember last time you threw me a party.
I don't want to party with you.
It's really true. Like, this guy really is no good. So Genesis 31:29, he says, like, just get this. Because it's like, all right. He says, it is in my power to do you harm. How you feel about that?
Again, he's just the worst right now.
He really is. And by the way, this is plural. So when he says it's in my power, everything's been to Jacob as an individual so far. Huh. But here he says, it is in my power to do, the Hebrew is plural,
all of you guys,
y'all harm. And that word there, we don't know if it means murder. It's the Hebrew word is ra. It literally means like to bring misery on you, to make you low, to bring devastation and tragedy upon you. And a lot of the commentators think that this is like he's not planning to just kill them. He's planning to take everything they have and reduce them all to slavery. Like, so I can have the power to reduce you all, take everything you have and make you lowly.
Yeah, bring them back home and control everything again.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's right. And then he says, but the God of your father spoke to me last night saying, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.
Essentially, the God of your father. Like,
not mine.
Not mine.
And now you have gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house. But why? So, okay, yeah. You're taking my daughters, you're taking my grandkids, you're doing all this stuff. But here's really what he wants.
Yeah, that's all the fake, like, platitudes of like, oh, I really care.
That's right. I really love them so much. I would have celebrated them to the heights. But then he gets down to like what's really on him. He's like, I need my gods. Like, why did you steal my gods? I have the right to harm you, but God, there's that expression again, right? Like God intervenes, he delivers you. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, well, I left because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. So Jacob knows nothing about this. He has no idea.
Classic.
That Rachel has taken the gods again. This is like the worst communicating family.
Classic families.
Gosh. And so he's like, anyone you find them with, like, you kill them. Like, death penalty. If they stole your gods, you can kill them. Because at this point, Jacob's like, we didn't take your stupid gods. Like,
let's get
out of here. Like, you're just trying to pick a fight. This is another one of your schemes where you're trying to pull one over on me. You're inventing a case to bring against me. And he says, in the presence of our kinsmen, you point out what I have that's yours, and you take it. Now, Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And so why Jacob, when he starts, he's like, hey, I was afraid. I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid, because he knows what? If I said, hey, Laban and your sons, I'm taking everything that I've earned and your daughters and my grandkids. Yeah, he's done. He's over with. Mm-hmm. And so there's a reason why God, by the way, because God thinks the same. There's a reason why God has to go to Laban and be like, right?
Yeah.
No, because he knows Laban's not going to let him go.
The murderous intent.
The murderous intent, or the I'm never going to let you out of my control. Like, you belong to me no matter what happens. I will not let you go. And God's got to intervene and be like, no, I'm telling you no. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and then into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two female servants, but he didn't find them. And he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. So she's, I'm assuming, in her tent on the saddle that's now off of the camel, laying on the floor, but she is sitting on the saddle of it. And so Laban goes around all the tent. You know, he's overturning the dressers and pulling out everything, and he's looking for it, but he can't find them. And so she said to her father, oh, let not my Lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me. So he searched, but did not find the household gods. What's she saying?
What's the way of women?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was asked it first.
You first.
All right, so she's saying, I'm having my period. Yeah. I'm menstruating right now. Which, now there's two ways to view this story. The first is, and this is the way I used to read it, and it's still quite likely because this whole family schemes and lies like it's their job, is that she's making it up. Like, she's hidden the gods underneath herself. And, you know, like if you ever look at a camel saddle, it like hangs down. It's like blankets and everything else. So it's like this huge mound of pillowed blankets. and they're under this. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't get up. I'm having my period. I'm sorry. And in that ancient culture, you see this in the Old Testament, you see this in the ancient writings, Hittite codes and stuff like that. When a woman was in the period of menstruation, what happened?
They were unclean.
They were unclean. Like, don't have dealings with them. You can't worship with them. They're not allowed in the assemblies to worship during that period because bloody discharges are unclean. So she's separate. So when she's like, I'm sorry, I'm having my period, he's not going to be like, no, get up and let me check the things that you're sitting on.
He's like, I got to get out of here.
I got to get out of here. So she has no intention of doing that. So the crazy thing is, like, think about how humiliating this is for the gods that Laban worships. One, they couldn't prevent themselves from being kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are these gods? Two, she's sitting on them. Like, how humiliating. But three, I think, and these are like, if you look at, they're called teraphim in the Hebrew, and what they are, they're anywhere between like 4 inches and 12 inches. And they're made usually of clay or stone. And they look like standing figures, almost like bowling pins or something, with the face on top and the body that's all together going down. And it's a little statue. And so she is sitting on them. But I think there's a very real possibility that she really is menstruating and she's not lying. She just uses that as an excuse. And the reason why I say that is in the ancient world, fertility, and these are probably fertility gods, frankly, in the ancient world, everybody knew everybody's business about fertility cycles, right? Yeah. One, because your husband is out doing the shepherding deal, right? And so when you're ovulating and you're able to get pregnant, it's like, you got to get home right now during this time of the month if there's any shot of me getting pregnant. And they're having like the Cold War of fertility. Everybody knows their business. So they know when she's ovulating. And they also know, because ceremonially, like and stuff like that, she's unclean during that time. Like, they get marked out of when they're not involved in things. And so, like, it's that time. So when he shows up and she says, I'm menstruating, like, the kinsman that Laban has come with would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right.
That tracks, yeah.
Right. So now imagine what God is poetically drawing in the story. Here you have all the gods that they've worshipped their whole life. Now, what was Rachel's heartbreaking problem?
Fertility.
She was barren, right? Can't have kids. And by the way, like, as she's learning to trust Yahweh rather than these household fertility gods, they can't answer, but Yahweh did. And so now she takes these fertility gods, she puts them underneath herself to where she would literally be bleeding on them. She's menstruating at this time. And what would this look like? It would look like she's miscarrying these gods. They're dead. They're lifeless. They're powerless. And if nothing else, they're defiled with the blood of, her fertility cycle, right? And so this is, I think, really interesting. She's riding them like a beast of burden. She's showing that they're utterly powerless. She's defiling them. And all this, Laban is the guy who's like, oh, yeah, I use divination of my gods and all this stuff. But they're not crying out to him. Yeah. He can't find them.
He's in the same room and he can't even get them.
These are powerless gods. And if nothing, Rachel and Leah are learning through this situation. The God of Jacob, tremendously powerful. These stupid things that we've been devoting our lives to growing up,
got nothing.
They're worthless. They're garbage. So anyway, that's why I don't know that Rachel is idolatrously loving these things, because if she really revered them, she's certainly not going to sit on them. I mean, that would have been super mocking. So anyway, verse 36, then Jacob became angry. So like, Laban has found nothing. He's gone through everything. Rachel has tricked him. And Jacob became angry, and man, he lights into Laban. And this has been 20 years in the making. And it's like, all right, go get you one, Jacob. Yeah. Go get you one. He says, what is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? For you have felt through all my goods. What have you found of all your household gods? Set it here before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us two. You got caught. You went looking for something, and it's been shown that you are wrong. These 20 years I've been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried. I've not eaten the rams of your flocks. What was torn by wild beasts, I didn't bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. From my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or night. And there I was. By day the heat consumed me, and the cold by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. I worked myself to the bone for you, in other words. These 20 years I've been in your house. I've served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, 6 years for your flock. You've changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and here's something interesting, the fear of Isaac, had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God saw my affliction and the labor of my hands, and he rebuked you last night.
That was good.
Yes. This is like, you ever see Uncle Buck when he leaves the principal's office after chewing her out? He's like, that's how you feel right now with Jacob coming out of this, just having laid it down on Laban. And he's not wrong about any of it. One of the interesting things of this passage is he says, the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac. It's the only time that you'll hear that being used as a title for God, and it'll come twice out of Jacob's mouth. The fear of Isaac. Why? What is that?
I mean, is that like how we use fear when we talk about God? Like
yeah.
The fear of the Lord?
The awe-inspiring. Like he looks at this. It'll make you tremble how awesome he is. When you behold him, it's like, that's the connotation. Like, he's so amazing, I can't be in his presence. That's the idea. It's not like, run away, yeah. He's terrifying.
And that's interesting because Laban, the only person he knew in that is Isaac. Mm-hmm. And Isaac came with all of the greatness of that. And like, almost like he should be worshipped. But he's like, no, Isaac, who's greater than Isaac? In Isaac's mind? God. Good. Whereas Laban looked at Isaac like he was a god practically because of all the wealth he brought.
Yeah. You think about how, do they show any fear for their stupid gods?
No.
These little teraphim, these clay statues, they like pass them around and sit on them, and like there's no reverence. And here Jacob is like, okay, you're coming after me for your stupid little clay statues. Like, you don't understand what God is really like.
You're dealing with, yeah.
Yeah. You're dealing with the God of Abraham. You've heard about him. You heard all the God's faithfulness to him, and the fear. Like this incredible God, it's too much to behold. He's so awesome, and you come to him with such reverence. You certainly don't sit on him. The fear of Isaac has been on my side, and he's told you, back off, dude. So verse 43, then Laban answered and said to Jacob, because he's bucking up now, these daughters are my daughters, and the children are my children. Now you see what Laban really believes. All those 14 years, I was never going to let you go. These are my daughters. These are my grandkids. These flocks are my flocks. So everything that I agreed upon, I didn't really mean it. I was going to try to find a way to mess you out of it. All that you see is mine. But what can I do this day for these my daughters, or for their children whom they've borne? Come, now let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me. So Laban at this point feels so restrained by the threat of God, because otherwise he just told you what's going to happen. They're all mine. You, whatever.
Which is wild. Could you imagine
they're mine.
Your father-in-law coming to you and be like, it's my daughter?
No, actually.
Yeah, I can't. But looking at my kids, be like, those are actually my kids? What a wild ride.
Some days it's like, all right.
Yeah, take them.
Tuesday through Friday. Anyway, I'm kidding. I love you, children. Anyway, so he says, let's make a covenant, you and I. Let it be a witness between you and me. He wants Jacob gone. If I can't harm you, I never want to see you again, is the idea. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. This is his deal. Like every time he has a unique thing, it's like setting up the pillar. And Jacob said, which by the way, this is going to be a theme that follows Israel. They have these memorial.
Got
stones, like they set up and they build these rocks. And you know why they do that? It's so because in the future you're going to forget, right?
Yeah.
And these remind you. And for Israel, when they put up all these memorial stone piles all over Israel, it would be like, hey, it felt like things were hopeless then. But hey, it looked hopeless for the guys that set up that memorial pile over there. And God came through.
Yeah, remember that story.
Yeah, and so it's important. Like I used to teach this. Like, it's important for us to have memorial stones. Like those moments where it's like, this doesn't seem like it's going to work out. I can't imagine how God's going to deliver me through this or make this beautiful or bless me out of this. And yet he always does somehow. And those need to be memorial stones in your life where you can look back at the next time you think, how in the world is God going to get me out of this? Or has God forsaken me here? And it's like, oh, yeah, I remember thinking that same thing back there at that event.
And look how he showed himself.
And so in this case, this stone is to remind them of a covenant of you stay on this side, I stay on this side. And so that's what happens here. Jacob took a stone, set it up as a pillar, and Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. And they took stones and they made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it, oh, good grief, Jagar Sahudutha, which is an Aramaic word that means heap of witness. So like the heap of stones is going to be a witness to the covenant that we make here. Jacob called it by the Hebrew word Galid. And so already you see Jacob, we're not doing your Aramaic language. We're doing my Hebrew language. Like this is a separation here. Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me today. Therefore he named it Galid. And Mitzvah, for he said, the Lord watch, Mitzvah means watch, the Lord watch between you and me. When we're out of one another's sight, if you oppress my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters, although no one is with us, God is witness between you and me. And then Laban said to Jacob, so here we go, see this heap and the pillar which I've set before you and me? This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me to do harm. So there's total distrust. I don't want you in my business because you're gonna try to scheme me. I won't go over your side because you know what I'll do. Like we just need to part ways and just go our own way.
Good.
The God of Abraham, and this is what he's saying, the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, they're not the same, right?
No.
So he's like, I'm going to bring in all the gods, like the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor. We're going to swear by all this, the God of their father. He judged between us. So what it's interesting here. What Laban is doing, he's like, bring all the gods. We'll swear by all of them. And what's Jacob's response?
No.
So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac, that being the God of his father Isaac. That word again, the trembling, awe-inspiring God of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered a sacrifice in the hill country and called his kinsmen to eat bread. And they ate bread and spent the night in the hill country. So this is the first time where you're seeing like, wow, Jacob he took a step. This is faithful. Like this is, I'm all in. I'm not going to swear by pagan gods and foreign gods. Like you say I have to swear by the God of Nahor. No, I'm going to swear by the fear of my father Isaac.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. They share another meal. And then their whole chapter concludes. Early in the morning, Laban arose, so they've been camping with each other peacefully, recognizing we're going to separate. Let's have a meal together.
I don't know if much sleep happened.
Yeah, right? And one eye open.
One eye open.
And Laban arose and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned home. And so now you find Jacob in this transitional moment where he can't go back home. He can't to Laban. That's gone. He has one option. The boats are burned. Where's he got to go now? He's got to go home. He's got to face the music. He's got to face Esau. He's got to figure out, like, how am I going to survive this if he still wants to kill me? And so God is setting this up to where Jacob is going to have his great, I think, conversion moment in the next chapter. And one of the most profound moments of the Bible when Jacob is going to wrestle with God. And what I love about this is, like, God is so sovereign over everything that has led to this moment. Mm-hmm. He's building slowly. The schemer, right? The schemer that's like, I got to fix this. It's my identity. All his wives, it's like, my identity is in this and this, and it's that. Anything but God. And God has led them to this moment. And he's showing, do you see how I take care of you? Do you see how I've shown favor on you? Do you see how I keep my word? Do you see how I've led you right back here just like I promised? I am good. I am faithful. I keep my word. And then in this next chapter, when Jacob is facing something that is completely outside of his control, which is Esau coming with 400 men, God's going to be like, where's your identity now?
Yeah.
Pick, choose. And God has gently led him to this moment to build that faith, the same way he did with Abraham. So kind, over 20 years with Jacob, right? Which is also hopeful for us because God only knows like 20 years of building strong enough legs to start having faith. Might be that God's using decades to build us into who he wants. He spent decades building Abraham into who he was supposed to be, Isaac, decades into who he's supposed to be. And it's like God plays the long game.
Yeah, he's long-suffering.
He's long-suffering, and his promise isn't dependent on our faithfulness. It's not dependent upon our obedience all the time. He just refuses to give up on his promise to his people because he knows, given enough time and enough working with us, we're stupid, but eventually we'll get over our stupidity and realize, like, I would have been way better off just trusting him all along.
Yeah.
And that's what he's teaching these patriarchs. So it's a beautiful lesson. And so now, close out this chapter with Jacob leaving, and he's loaded. He's wealthy. He's got his wives. He's got 11 kids to this point. 12th one will soon be on the way. But God is building his people.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to stop there. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Join us next time as we go into Genesis 32 and the wrestling match, which is an odd thing to say, the wrestling match between Jacob and God. Beautiful chapter. God bless.